Thunderbirds are go!
In this episode of Thunderbirds, some heavy US Army equipment turns out to be heavy, and all the kids watching learn to never penetrate a hole without protection. Unless of course you're drilling in hard sideways. Starts out with one of the most bizarre openings in Thunderbirds, throwing a lot of stock footage of the wilderness at us. We are forced to watch elephants, lions, crocodiles, monkeys, the whole shebang. The first time I saw it as a kid, I was like, oh no, Dad taped over my VCR with a freaking National Geographic documentary. We get to see a huge machine tearing up the jungle, intertwined with the stock footage of animals being scared, to simulate them running away from this machine. But the models in obvious studio sets just look so different to the animal footage, and it really doesn't work at all. Fortunately, the stock footage is only seen in the beginning of the episode, and I guess they at least try to make things a bit more lively this way. This used machine, by the way, is called the Sidewinder. The US Army's high-tech, it's the state-of-the-art... What is it exactly? A Sidewinder is more like a snake, right? This almost looks more like a giant bug crawling along the jungle. I always felt the crab logger from a much later episode should be a much more appropriate name for this thing. But anyway, the Sidewinder is still a memorable guest vehicle, but it's certainly no fire flash. So it's mainly used to clear areas of jungle and forest to make way for new stuff. Meanwhile, the general and his crew are admiring their machine from their helicopter, and the mission is completed. The crew of the Sidewinder is instructed to make their way to Rendezvous Point 9 to be relieved by another helijet so they can go home. Of course, it wouldn't be Thunderbirds if they would just reach Point 9 without trouble. As the machine continues to walk around, the floor collapses and before you know it, bam, the machine is down 300 feet. I always thought they showcased this weird disaster happening so quickly. In Thunderbirds, they usually take pride in slowly setting up the disaster, showing you exactly what goes wrong and give you a real sense of danger. Here, apart from a single shot showcasing that the ground is slowly collapsing, pretty much straight away the Sidewinder is eaten alive by the ground and it's gone. The crew of the Sidewinder seems to have survived the fall. Wait, how are they still laying on the ground though? The Sidewinder is completely upside down. Shouldn't they be laying on the ceiling now? Anyway, much like the Fire Flash, the Sidewinder has another atomic reactor. It's 300 feet down and it weighs 500 tons. And it's on fire, which also isn't exactly ideal for a nuclear machine either. So the crew is in real danger and needs to be rescued fast. There isn't a moment to lose, so the general and the other helijet crew quickly rush in to smoke some cigars and casually discuss the situation. So one of the guys is like, hey, why don't you lower me into the blazing inferno so I can take a look? Cause that doesn't seem like a dumb idea at all. So they strap him onto the helijet and lower him in.
I can see it. Get me up, Charlie. Now.
Well, at least he got to see the Sidewinder for a good second, or all of that would have been for nothing. Meanwhile, in Thunderbird 5, John has been listening along with the rescue attempt of the army and quickly informs his father about the situation. Jeff doesn't want to involve international rescue with this situation immediately yet, as this could be a secret army operation. They don't want to just stick their nose into it, so he puts Scott on standby in Thunderbird 1, just in case. But it's really just an excuse to fill the episode up a little bit more. You see, longtime fans of Thunderbirds will know that the show was originally meant to feature episodes that were only a half hour long, but when the producers showcased their first episode to be approved for television, Lou Grade was so impressed he ordered the show to be much longer instead. So about a dozen episodes were already shot for a half hour and all needed to be extended. In most cases, these episodes got much better subplots for character development or separate rescues or adventures taking place. But in the case of this episode, they really just extended it by adding the bit where the army is attempting their own rescue, similar to Trapped in the Sky. Because shortly after the first guy gets his face burned off, they just send another guy in, this time with a big tow cable. They try to attach this to one of the Sidewinder's metal feet before this guy almost burns alive as well. The two brave men are quickly brought to the hospital, and of course the Sidewinder is way too heavy to be moved with just a tiny cable and a helicopter, so they fail again. And then finally the general's right hand man is like, we should call International Rescue! Now chronologically it does make sense for International Rescue to not be that well known yet, and in some of the early episodes the people in danger don't immediately think to call them. As the series progresses they become more well known. I always like that. So John receives the distress call, quickly tells his father that they do need their help, and Jeff immediately dispatches Scott in Thunderbird 1. Since there isn't much known about the origin of the pit, they'll need Brains to come along to tackle this rescue, so Brains is introduced a bit more properly in this episode. We did get to see him very briefly in Trapped in the Sky, but now he actually gets to do some stuff too, so he comes along as a passenger to Virgil in Thunderbird 2. Meanwhile, back at the danger zone, the crew of the Sidewinder is slowly being grilled as the heat is penetrating through the hole, and in classic Thunderbird style they once again did a great job in raising the sense of danger. Everybody seems helpless and concerned, and we want to see this poor crew being rescued from the flaming inferno down in that hole. Fortunately, Scott quickly arrives in his 7.5 thousand miles an hour rocket and starts off by sending a nifty little camera drone into the pit. And thanks to the epic futuristic technology of teleradio, he is able to send the footage over to Thunderbird 2, so Brains can assess the situation. Again, there isn't a moment to lose, so Thunderbird 2 rushes in to quickly chill in the lab and casually discuss the situation.
What's that? That's it. That confirms it. This must have been an open cast mine. When it was exhausted, large craters would have been left.
And it was used as a dump for military equipment after the Second World War. That explains the US Army record.
So we got a little bit of nifty background information like that of the origin of the pit, as Brains finds out that there are still old wreckages of the US Army vehicles down in the pit from World War II, and over the years the combustion buried all of it, so they need to remove some of the remaining crust surrounding the pit so that they can drag the Sidewinder out of there. I do like that they went for quite a serious explanation as to why this happened, but I can imagine the kids just wanted to see the rescue being put into action already. So the army helps to lower Virgil into the hole, with protection. So the plan is to leave Virgil in the pit so he can commence the rescue operation. So he's going to cut his way into the broken down walls so he can rescue the crew. Good job, Virg. FAB. See ya. Well, no, not quite. Instead of just going for the easy way by saving the lives, International Rescue is going to attempt to get the whole Sidewinder out of the pit. Every 500 tons of it. But I guess getting a nuclear machine out of a fire is a pretty good idea. So Virgil starts laying explosive charges around the place. Cause that's always a good idea next to something nuclear.
What are they trying to do? Blow us out of here?
Virgil has laid the charges so he can remove the crust so they can drag the Sidewinder out of there. And then we are introduced to International Rescue's most iconic pod vehicle in the series, the Mole. In the series, pretty much all the pod vehicles would only appear in one episode, except for the Firefly and this one, which holds the record for the most episodes it's appeared in. It's capable of drilling underground, and in this episode they solely use it to get Virgil out of the pit, which always seemed like a bit of a redundant action. I mean, the army helicopter could have easily used their cable again to get Virgil out of there much faster, like we've seen them doing all the time in the episode so far. But no, we want to use the Mole. But I guess the kids are happy to see this thing in action anyway. So Scott gets Virgil out of the pit using the Mole, and they then proceed with the rest of the rescue operation. They detonate the charges and get the recovery vehicles out. Again, with one being radio operated, just like the elevator cars in Trapped in the Sky. These things are capable of firing huge cables with magnets on them and drag out the whole Sidewinder. It makes for a pretty exciting rescue. Some more tension is thrown at us, or whether or not these machines are actually strong enough to drag the whole heavy thing out of there. But yes, of course in the end they once again managed to pull it off.
safe. It's a miracle. They've got us out of the pit.
So the crew is hospitalized, and then Scott totally takes the credit for rescuing the crew. Sure, he was part of the rescue, but it was Virgil again who did all the hard work. Anyway, the day is saved, and to me it always looks like even the Sidewinder now joins in to casually discuss the situation, having a relaxing beer after a long day. The army men are thankful, and International Rescue flies off for the next adventure.
Boy, what I'd give to have those guys in my force.
People that are familiar with Thunderbirds and watched a lot of the later episodes, they know that it's very easy to tell that Pit of Peril was one of the very early ones in the series, because the episode is very basic. A machine falls into a pit and now International Rescue has to get it out. That's pretty much all there is to it. That isn't to say the episode is boring, but it's certainly pretty vanilla in Thunderbird standards. And as the series went on, the plot's gotten a lot deeper and more interesting, especially in extending their half-hour stories into longer episodes. Because in this episode, we just get the US Army attempting to lower their guys into the pit with little success. It doesn't really add that much interesting stuff to the story. At least in the following episodes, they got a lot better at the extending part. Still though, the Sidewinder, the flaming pit, the recovery vehicles, and the introduction of the mole, it's all extremely memorable. So it's definitely a classic episode, but you could honestly say that about all 32 episodes. But for me, it's just not among my favorites in the series. Next time we'll be taking a look at how International Rescue handles the burning Thompson Tower in City of Fire. If you enjoy my content, please make sure to subscribe and click that little bell icon to always be updated on my latest content. Since my content is always available to the supporters first, make sure to follow me on my social media and check the community tab on my channel to always stay updated on the release dates for future videos. Are you a fan of my work and you just can't wait for other episodes or content to come up to the channel? Well, you can now join the DBF community on my Patreon page. Supporting my channel grants you access to all my latest videos 2 weeks before the regular viewers get to see it. Your name will also be included on the Supporter Hall of Fame, and you get to vote for the new content. And as a bonus for signing up, you will receive a personal thank you video from me, as well as these custom Blu-ray covers that I designed myself. These will all be received by email immediately, so you can pop them out of your printer and put them in empty Blu-ray covers to have your own DBF Blu-ray collection on your shelf. All support for giving back to my channel is appreciated immensely. You can find the link in the description, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thanks a lot, guys.